Hi, welcome back to the channel.
My name is Dean.
My name's Kyra.
Today we're going to be talking about how to mess up your retirement move in 10 easy steps.
And the reason we are talking about this subject is because a lot of times expectations do not meet reality. And sometimes you'll hear about people moving overseas. They're here for 6 months or a year. I think the average time that people usually move and stay is about 2 years, and then you'll hear that people have moved back to the States. And so before we moved, we watched a lot of videos, and we also listened to other people who talked about why they were moving back. And so we've come up with some of the reasons that sometimes will cause you to move and then maybe feel like you need to go back.
And this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek in some cases, but a lot of these things do apply, and we thought these out for ourselves before we moved here, and we hope that they'll help you.
Okay. So the first thing is listening to what everyone else says about a particular place, but not visiting or doing your own research to that place.
Sometimes you'll get to a place that you've never been. You've seen it all in the pictures, but it's not exactly what you were expecting, or people told you either great things about this place and you show up and it's not at all what you wanted, or they tell you terrible things about the place, but you haven't looked at it for yourself, so you could be really missing out.
So this is why we talked about scouting trips in one of our earlier videos and how to do those scouting trips so that you can feel like you are actually living in the place you're supposed to live.
Right. Now, another related thing that you could do that might mess you up is moving to a place that you really shouldn't be. If you're a city person and you're moving to the country, maybe you shouldn't have made that choice. If you are a suburb person and then you move to a busy city, you might regret that. If you like the sunshine, but the place that you moved has a lot of fog and rain, you might be second guessing yourself. And if you're not happy where you live, that might be a reason that you want to go back to the United States or wherever you're from.
Yeah, and these things may seem small, but if you really don't like the rain and you're living in a place where it rains all the time, that can very much affect your mood.
Okay, so the next one is if you move someplace and you're not intending to learn the language of the place that you're moving to.
Yeah, if you move to a place where the language is the same as yours, this would not be an issue. But a lot of times people will move to a place and they're like, well, I'm living here now, but I have no intention of learning the language. And so then you don't really get a chance to build a relationship with the locals or get invited to different things because people sort of feel like you don't really want to be a part of the community.
And this is all about intention, not about whether or not you're fluent. If you're trying, people will try to help you right back. But if you want to remain only with people who speak your native language and not learn the language of the place that you are, first of all, you're going to feel like you're being excluded. You're going to feel less welcome, and you're also going to be frustrated because you won't necessarily tune into the nuances of conversations, the nuances of even what to order at the restaurant. So it's all about intention, as I said. You don't have to be perfect. You don't also have to be embarrassed if you don't know the language and if you make mistakes. If you're trying, that's the best thing.
Yeah, and people are always willing to help you. I think the next thing that I have heard of is people moving to a place where they don't like the food. For instance, if you're planning on moving to Mexico, but you don't like burritos, tacos, that maybe is not going to be a great fit for you.
or if you're moving to a charming little seaside town that's very famous for their seafood and you don't like fish, not only are you going to be missing out, but you might be really unhappy there.
Very true. I think the other thing, one of the other things we have talked about is not taking health challenges into account when picking a place. For instance, you have a walker and you know you're gonna need an elevator, but you move to a place that's a fifth floor walk up. That might not be a good fit.
Or if you move someplace that is farther away from a hospital or a clinic, but you need regular medical care.
Yeah, that also could be an issue.
The next one that we've actually seen or heard of from people that we know or acquaintances of ours is people who move to a place and they're expecting to live in the same place that they came from. In our case, if we moved here and we expected that we'd be living just like we were in the United States.
You know, that everything's going to be exactly the same, even though where you're living is geographically a completely different place.
And culturally a different place. There are going to be a lot of things that can be the same. As we talked about in our previous video on renting, you can find a home that is very much like the home that you had in the United States, if that's your preference. But you're still living in a foreign country. You're still living in a place where the farmer's market may be 365 days a year, where food that you buy at the supermarket is not designed to last forever. So it will go bad quicker here. Because in Portugal, it's a country that's really very much a daily shopping country. So there are things that are going to be different, and rather than fight against them, I think it's a good idea to embrace them, because you might also find something entirely new and endearing that you love about the place.
Very, very true. I think the next point, that one of the other things that we've noticed is not making friends with either immigrants, other people that are moving into the area, or local people. You'll a lot of times hear people say, well, we feel really lonely. And it's like, oh, well, who are you making friends with? Oh, nobody. You know, we just have been sticking to ourselves. Well, that might be a way that you're not really going to enjoy the place that you currently are, because it's like just two people or just one person by themselves if you've moved and you're a single and you're just spending time with yourself. You're not going out to a coffee shop and trying to strike up a conversation, or going shopping and, you know, asking the person next to you, hey, what is this fruit, if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, another thing is if it's just two of you or even one of you, you can get kind of into an information closed loop where you're reinforcing something negative about the place and not letting anything positive take root. If you're just sitting there and complaining to each other about what you don't like, it can limit you learning what you do like.
Definitely.
The next one is moving someplace and spending money just like you're on vacation.
That's not going to work, because usually when you go on vacation, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be back here. Let me get this. Let me go to the fanciest restaurant in town, the Michelin restaurant, or let me do this, let me do that. And that's great. But once you are living and you've got a monthly budget that you're supposed to keep to, if you're blowing that budget all the time, but you might be living on perhaps less money than you were in the United States, or maybe you've got more money to live on than you were, then that won't be a problem. But if you're trying to stick to a monthly budget, that could be an issue if you're just like spending, and, you know, not paying attention to your bottom line.
Yeah, another thing is a lot of people will talk about Portugal, where we are, as having a lower cost of living than where we came from, the United States. And that's very true if you choose it to be so. If you don't choose it to be so, you can, as Kyra said, blow the budget, eat out all the time, eat at fancy restaurants, buy souvenirs, whatever. And the thing to remember is you don't have to do all of that so quickly. You can get to that Michelin restaurant on a special night out because you live here now. You don't have to rush it into a 1 week rush job of going everywhere that you haven't seen, because you have, months and perhaps years to experience the place that you are. So you don't really need to spend the money, as they say, like a drunken sailor.
That's one way to put it. I think keeping an attitude or telling people, running around telling people, well, everything was better wherever you came from. Obviously, that doesn't make great friends of you talking to the locals and telling them that everything was better where you came from, because in their mind they're thinking, well, then why don't you go back? Like, if everything was so much better and you're just complaining about everything here, that is something that can definitely put a damper on your relationships.
Yeah, and the thing to remember is things are going to be different, and things might have run smoother in one area or another back where you came from. Something might be smoother or more enjoyable here. It's about perception of the differences rather than something being inherently negative or inherently positive. You're moving to a foreign country. Things are going to be different. Things are going to not move at the pace you're used to. The food's going to be spiced differently. The public transportation is going to be different. It's okay. And if you liked it better where you came from, then you've had a nice adventure and maybe it is time to go back. But if you're open to the new adventure, then maybe it's not. Maybe you can stick it out and really get used to the place and start to really love it.
And I think the last thing that we wanted to talk about is be willing to laugh at your mistakes.
Everybody makes them.
You will be making some.
So I had, of all things, a Spanish teacher back in high school. And she was eating dinner with a family of Spanish speakers. So what she said at the end, she really enjoyed the meal, and she wanted to say, "Oh, I'm full." What she did say instead was, "I'm pregnant." And everybody at the table laughed, and she didn't quite know what she had done wrong, and until they explained it to her. Then she got a good laugh out of it, and for us in high school Spanish, it became a lesson that we learned. But now it's many, many years later, and I'm still telling that story, and I've actually talked to her about it, because she and I are still friends. And it's okay to laugh at your mistakes. Things happen.
There's a putain and poutine, which are two different things in French. And one of them, especially if you're traveling in Canada, as I was at the time, is French fries with gravy and curds and maybe some bacon on top. And the other one is a prostitute. So it's really good to know the difference between these things. And if you make a mistake, you can laugh at it.
You don't want to go up to the stand and order the prostitute when you want the French fries.
So we wanted to thank you for watching all the way to the end. And we wanted to give a challenge for you to encourage your friends to subscribe to our channel. We are trying to get up to 500 subscribers. And when we get up to 500 subscribers, we are going to do a live show. So anybody who has subscribed and who knows that the show is going on is going to be able to ask us live questions about pretty much anything you want to know about Portugal, anything you want to know about Caldas de Rainha, anything you want to know about how, we ended up coming here. We'd love to be able to do a live show, but we need to have enough people first. So we are trying to get up to 500 subscribers.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon with our next show, and we'll see you on the road.